Muchas gracias por asistir a esta presentación. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure for Ametic and the think tank Vehicle 7 years from now to make this short presentation about the main goals of this amazing think tank. First of all, I would like to speak about Ametic. Ametic is the association that represents the digital technology industry sector in Spain. Our members include large, medium, and small leading IT companies, telecommunications, electronic, digital services, and content, all leading companies driven by the digital transformation. With more than 300 members, Ametic organizes its work in 20 commissions. One of them is the Connected Vehicles and Sustainable Mobility Commission. And one of its main objectives is to analyze the present and the future of mobility in our continent. Because mobility is important for Spain, but it is also very important for the future of the European industry. So given the accelerated transformation of the mobility sector due to technological, environmental, and societal developments, it is our role and our duty to design new mechanisms for collaborating that can bridge the public-private divide, cut across spatial scales from local, national, and global, and convene a range of sectorial actors like OEMs, energy, transport, infrastructure, insurance, digital, and telecom. Thus, in Ametic came the idea of this think tank Vehicle 7 years from now, to gather leading actors across Europe to explore the present and the future of mobility, focusing on autonomous, connected vehicles and sustainable mobility. Why? The uncertain and fast-paced nature of change in our world renders impossible to try to predict the future. Nevertheless, we need more than ever to have future-oriented dialogues built on structured approaches that integrate complexity and uncertainty. This is the rationale of our choice to develop scenarios using the Oxford scenario planning approach with design, methodological support, and facilitation by Norman partners. So the first iteration of the think tank in 2018 gathered between Bilbao and Stuttgart meetings 72 senior executives and multidisciplinary experts from 55 organizations who accepted the challenge to build strategic scenarios on urbanism, automotive, energy, telecommunications, financial services, disruptive technologies, geostrategy, and regulations for the future of autonomous vehicles in Europe. As a result of the Stuttgart conference, the second meeting, we have written the public brochure of Vehicle 7 years from now. The document summarizes a brief but exhaustive description of the think tank journey so far. So you can see here the members of the think tank. They are all Spanish and European companies. And let me show you this beautiful picture from our first meeting in Bilbao in 2018. So during the second iteration this year, members were invited in Bilbao last June to address the challenges and opportunities that the future of urban infrastructures for mobility and the social impact implications set, both for industry and for society in Europe. Also, members were invited to map in urban mobility ecosystem relationships and co-created values, and they were invited also to design plausible future urban mobility ecosystem in each scenario across the scenarios. And yesterday, during our fourth meeting, this time and for the first time here in Barcelona, members were invited to identify business opportunities and to identify which players will lead the future ecosystem reconfiguration in Europe. So I invite you all to consult the public brochure about the work that we have done so far It is on our website, ametic.es. You can take advantage of it if your company is related with mobility, but also if for any organization that needs to define future scenarios. So let me introduce our speakers. First of all, Jonas Hoffman for Norman Partners, Ray Pinto from Digital Europe, Rafael Fando from Ferrovial, Selena Rodriguez from Ormazabal, and Joan Villaplana from Saba. Please introduce yourself and you have 5 minutes for your presentation.
Hi. Thanks, Ametic, for the invitation of being here. I mean, it's a pleasure to be taking part in this process for the past 2 years. My name is Jonas Hoffman. I'm a principal at a consulting company based in London and Stockholm called Norman Partners. And we have close links with the University of Oxford in the UK. And that's where we work with many private, but as well public organizations, cities and governments to deploy the Oxford scenario planning approach. I'm going to quickly present what we did in the process. Just very quick about Norman Partners. I mean, we have been working for organization for the past 15 years, and it's always a logic of learning with clients. It's a logic about how can we, in this process, integrate the uncertainty in the future to develop a strategy, to develop plausible scenarios to orient the strategy. You have some of the references for those that will be like to take a look and go further, but as well you can speak with me. So we had the pleasure of, with Ametic, designing the set of scenarios on the future of autonomous vehicles in Europe by 2025. You have the public document that Eduardo just mentioned a few minutes ago. And we started with this fantastic group of more than 50 plus organizations identifying which are the key uncertainties that will plausibly unfold in the next 7 years, 6 years now. And then through an iterative process, we came out with a document with those uncertainties that eventually led us together to build a set of 3 plausible scenarios. And for us, the word plausibility is very important. It's not about forecasting. It's not about having the best, worst scenario. It's not about probability. We acknowledge uncertainty. And because of that, we acknowledge that a number of plausible futures can unfold. And we find those elements in the 3 scenarios we co-developed, we co-created together. One where the focus is more about on the scale-up of mobility initiatives at the European level that we named Big is Beautiful. Another one where litigation, where technology does not deliver, that we name it a slippery slope. And then a third one where the main focus is on mobility as a service and where autonomous vehicles, they play a role, but a minor role in that scenario, that we name it citizen mobility. We then went through a process because that was the first step. What we wanted to understand is how that would shape the ecosystems of different cities. And we took the cases of Madrid, Bilbao, and now Barcelona to understand how ecosystem reconfiguration could take place. And the process here is a process that some of you probably already have developed. We started by making a quite exhaustive actor mapping of all the actors in the urban mobility ecosystem in Europe. And you have here the names of those generic actors. We went to a very granular level with examples. What does that mean in each one of the cities we are developing? And then we want to imagine how that ecosystem could be reconfigured in a number of years in each one of the scenarios we co-developed with the participants of the think tank. That eventually led us to identify plausible future ecosystems, and then, and you find that in the public available document, imagine business opportunities for the think tank members about how they could collaboratively work with other actors to shape that. Very important, we had public actors, private actors, so it's not only about business opportunities, it is about regulatory and policy opportunities. So through all that process, what came out is a sense that we are all learning. We are all seeing a very complex reality unfolding at a very fast pace with many other elements going on, and the collective realization that technology, autonomous vehicle technology is part of that reality, but there are many more other variables in terms of social, political values and so on that play a very important role. So that's all on my side. My pleasure to later on, if you have questions to answer on the process we have deployed at the think tank. Thank you.
I don't have a presentation. Oh, good. There you go. Hi, everybody. I'm from the tech industry. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation today. I'm just going to talk to you, but I'm going to ask you a question. When we talk about autonomous vehicles, who here thinks Europe is going to lead the way? Put up your hand. One person. Who thinks China is going to lead the way? Okay. Japan? Are you Japanese? America? Okay. Well, I'm going to try and change your mind that the EU is actually coming together, doing the right things to potentially be a leader in this area. My name's Ray Pinto. I'm a director at a trade association that's called Digital Europe. Now, Digital Europe is a trade association of many great trade associations like Ametic in Spain. And we have trade associations all across Europe. We're a lobbying organization. We represent, like Ametic, the tech industry. And what I want to talk to you about today is just to let you know that the European Commission, I think, and Europe have realized that maybe they were a little bit asleep in the race of technology. Okay, you know, they haven't created the Googles or the Facebooks of the world, but Europe's strength is when it comes business to business. And they've created a thing called strategic value chains, SVC. There's 6 of them. And what does that mean? It means that Europe now is going to dedicate its several billions, several tens of billions in research and investment in these 6 value chains. They're going to soften the regulations that normally an industry will have. They'll soften them. They'll soften the competition rules. So countries like Spain can throw a lot of money at specific companies and not worry about competition, or worry less, I should say. They'll create sandboxing where things can be tested. They're going to create policies and regulations focusing on these 6 areas. What are the 6 areas? Well, some of them are specifically just for the autonomous vehicle world. One of them is clean, so electric or not diesel or not fossil fuel driven cars that are connected and autonomous. That's the first one. The second one that I think is relevant to this industry is it's going to create really advanced manufacturing using 4.0, using automation, using robots, using digital twins, using advanced material, using nanoengineering, etc. Europe is very strong in manufacturing, and Europe is now going to start investing in that area. And then one of the other areas is the ability for batteries or storage of electricity in hydrogen, for example. And then the final one is cybersecurity. Because no matter how great your technology is, if you don't have trust and if people don't feel safe when they let go of the wheel, you know, that car is going to take them, you know, somewhere, then it's not worth doing. So these are the key areas that the Commission and member states are going to be focusing at. So expect to see, you know, some great stuff. How can we in the industry help? Well, Digital Europe is like Ametic. We've created a working group. We're going to be focusing at this area, looking at all the different member states, looking at what the commission are there, providing expertise, hopefully looking at the leadership of Ametic to try and do this in other countries. Finland, Sweden, Germany, they're all doing, great things in the autonomous and connected car space. And more work can be done at the EU level to coordinate that. And I think this is one of our ambitions. We just started that out, but definitely something we want to do. Why do we want to do it? Well, this is going to create a lot of opportunity, for a lot of the tech community. It's going to be one of the key areas in digital transformation. When you look at advancing AI and having really advanced algorithms, collecting data and using that for driving innovation, having data flow over borders. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. These are all going to be critical, to the advancement of this area. So all I can say is watch this space, support Ametic, see what Digital Europe is doing, and I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank Ametic for giving us the opportunity of being here. And then, my name is Selena Rodriguez, and I'm the head of e-mobility in Ormazábal, a Veletia company. We are going to talk about sustainable ports, but let me tell you a little about who Veletia is. Veletia is a family-owned industrial company with manufacturing sites, 16 manufacturing sites all around the world. We are present in 19 countries with a technological base because we are in sectors that are very technological, like could be electric networks, telecommunication networks, project integrations, aerospace, mechatronics engineering, etc. And that we aim to be a reference in those sectors where we are present. If we talk about the topic of this short presentation, let me first share with you some data that maybe you already know. Like, for example, that the majority of the trade is made by the sea and growing, and a lot of people transport is also made through waterways. If we have there the figures, only in Europe, 400 million people use European waterways annually. However, at the same time, the vessels, the ships, and in the way they create problems in the sense that there are studies demonstrating that annually approximately 60,000 premature deaths are due to the fine particulates emitted by the ship's engines. And also, if we do nothing, by 2050, 17% of all the anthropogenic emissions of CO2 would be due to sea transport. If we talk about something that, for example, is very close to Barcelona, as we have the Barcelona port with figures about the docking of cruises. If we talk, let's say, I wouldn't say average, but I mean quite average cruise, it consumes 7 MBAs. And that pollutes as much as 9,000 cars if we're talking about NOx, or 3,000 if we talk about fine particulates. And let's have in mind that only in Spain last year, more than 4,000 cruises called at our Spanish ports, Barcelona within them. And here we have another data that is very, very, very critical. The cruises that are docking at Barcelona port are expelling every year 5 times more nitrogen dioxide than all the cars registered in Barcelona. However, I mean, it's true that we are trying to react to this, and organizations like the European Seaports Organization already in 2017, they decided and have put the air quality at the top of their environmental priorities. How we can do in order to tackle this issue? So same, we are in a congress about the smart cities, and given that many of the ports are located in very populated areas, in urban areas, like is the case here in Barcelona, a solution for this is the development and deployment of smart port solutions. This is a integration of systems, automated systems specifically for ports, and this includes solutions like electrification of ports, also e-mobility at ports. Let's think only about all those cruises calling at Barcelona port. We were talking, if we talk about Spain, we were talking about 10 million visitors annually. All those visitors, they are moving to the city, they are moving around. So why not to electrify as well all the fleet of buses or car sharing companies, etc., that are moving taxis, that are moving all those visitors to the city and from the city. Of course, this will be green, this would be sustainable if that electricity generation is coming from renewable sources. We are in the way of doing that. And then there is one very specific solution, that is the Shoreside electricity. That is a specific solution for the smart ports. What is Shoreside electricity? That also is known as high voltage shore connection or called ironing. In fact, it's just our power systems that allow to the connection to the port grid of the vessels in such a way that all the systems, services, and equipment of the vessel, while it's docked, are being sources are being fed by the electrical grid port. This allows the vessel's engines to be off. Which ones are the benefits of shoreside electricity? The biggest of them is the elimination of the engine emissions. And there are studies showing that could reduce the average CO2 emissions of the port by more than 50%. Another good benefit is the elimination of noise and vibrations coming from the ships. For the people that live near to the ports, this is something that is important because this increases their quality of life. Same for the port workers. This would improve their working conditions. And this will help also vessels, not only port, but also vessels, to comply with the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, guidelines, requirements. You know, last year in April, during their meeting in April, they agreed on a strategy for making the sea transport more environmental friendly, so that they could contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, specifically with the goal number 13, in such a way that they would try to get the peak of emissions as soon as possible, and then to start decreasing them so that by 2050 they could reach 50% of the emissions that they had in 2008. So, well, that's all from my side. Then I would appreciate questions. Thank you.
Okay, morning, good afternoon, sorry. First of all, thanks to Ametic for invitation to participate in this roundtable. Well, first, let me explain why Ferrovial is involved in the think tank. Well, of course, because we were invited by Ametic, and second, because in the think tank, is a think tank oriented to vehicles, but vehicles are the mobile material of all the mobility system in which there are fixed paths. These fixed paths are infrastructures. So we want to highlight the role of the infrastructures in the mobility. Cities are facing tremendous challenges of mobility, tremendous challenges of overpopulation, and infrastructures will contribute to ensure sustainable mobility and to try to solve these tremendous challenges. Well, I have put this slide tonight because yesterday we were we had in the think tank a tremendous conference of former mayor of Barcelona. And then I have to remember that 160 years ago, there were some engineers that Ildefonso Cerdá and Pedro García Faria, that they prepared a plan of basically infrastructures, streets, avenues, and also wastewater systems that revolutionized Barcelona. Barcelona was a small city in a world and then became a world capital. And these people had an enormous vision of the future in the 20th and 21st century when they were doing this project in 1860. So, and now this spirit of innovation, this spirit of adventure, and this spirit of vision, we have to have this spirit permanently to adapt our cities to the new mobility challenges. Well, I have put here some examples of how would be future infrastructures, or maybe present infrastructures, enhanced to the future needs. But of course, we can imagine a lot of other examples. Well, there could be integrated urban transport control centers. That means that traffic should be controlled. Traffic should be controlled in an integrated way, along with sensors, along with actuators and equipment that gives information to the cars, not only autonomous, also driven cars, connected cars. And these connected and vehicle services should also be not only on the motorways, not only on the roads, but all on the streets. Well, of course, we have to improve our infrastructure for recharging electric vehicles and create new ways of managing the street space. So that means specialize our streets. There are not only cars, not only pedestrians, there are new kinds of mobility that they are requesting their space in the city. And well, it's a very difficult challenge, but infrastructure should be renewed, should be redesigned to cope with these challenges. And then we will have new transport modes coming on the city. This train is the Hyperloop. Hyperloop will be a revolutionary transport that could transport people of more than 1,000 kilometers per hour. And this transport should interact with the urban transportation. And we have to think how this transportation could be integrated using the correct infrastructures. And finally, vehicles not are going only on the ground. Vehicles in the near future, maybe tomorrow, could also fly. And these are the examples of a couple of different models of aero taxis, or whatever you call, or super drones, or whatever you call. And these super drones will have their own infrastructure connected with the different hubs, and we have to solve also this challenge. Well, I don't know if we are. Well, just the last slide is just for give you examples of how Ferrovial is working in this field. Very quickly, we have car sharing services in the city of Madrid. That's the city service that not only in Madrid city but in the neighbor areas. We have also the bicycle service in Barcelona. It was a concession that Ferrovial won this year, and you have in only 2 months we have set up 500 stations, and we have renewed 6,000 bicycles, 1,000 of them electrical. And then Wondo is a new service of mobility service. It's the first attempt in Madrid to create a platform to help the users to go from A to B with a single city. I'm not going to say anymore. Let's wait for the questions, and thank you very much.
Aquí, ¿no? Yeah? Oh. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Joan Viaplana. I'm responsible for the mobility in Saba infrastructures. Saba is a car park operator, and first of all, thanks to Ametic for inviting Saba to the think tank and to this round table. And I've been asked to explain you why Saba, a car park operator with a very boring business, just being warehouse of cars, is interested in being part of the think tank. And let me just explain 2 or 3 things. First one, we come from a business which is basically, it was basically to be a warehouse of cars. I'm a heavy user, I'm a commuter. I drive around 2.5 hours a day, and the rest of the day my car is in a car park. So less than 10% of the time, being a heavy user, my car is used. So what is happening? Cities are facing a lot of problems. Population increase. I would not give you again the same number once and again. Pollution, more than 5,100 people dying in Europe a year for causes directly or indirectly related to pollution. Between 6 and 7% of European population continuously exposed to pollution levels above what is reasonable. Congestion in cities. Saba is present in 8 countries. The average speed on the main cities where Saba is present is, in the center of cities, is 13 kilometers per hour. Not even 30, 13. That's what congestion is. Last mile delivery, 20% of miles traveled in Barcelona are related to last mile deliveries at home. 40% of the pollution is due to last mile delivery. Think that the van fleet, which is used for the last mile delivery in Spain, almost 50% of the fleet is more than 50 years old. So a lot of pollution comes from this place. Metropolitan area impact. Commuters like me think that in Barcelona there are around 500,000 vehicles, 500,000 cars, but each day another 500,000 comes in and comes out. Okay, so in average 1 million vehicles are going around in Barcelona daily. Also, citizens have changed their habits from green. I remember when green was the big word. Now is environmental awareness. It's more than green. It's sustainability. Is a lot of things more. Is more concrete. Is more real. Ownership versus service. People doesn't want to have as much as before a car. So if I'm a warehouse for cars, what I will do? Our colleagues, our citizens have price, availability, comparison. We all have smartphones, apps that before all this technological revolution, no one knew how much cost a car park. Now you know how much costs my car park and the car park which is the door beside. We want access immediately to goods and services in an integrated way, mobility as a service, everything as a service. And also, we demand the cities to have less car-oriented and more citizen-oriented. So we want a space in the streets, not for cars, but for people. What are doing cities? Cities are doing measures to reduce the number of vehicles, congestion charge, to accelerate the pollution-free renewal, so to change the car base, the car fleet,
to measures to improve the last mile logistics, and they want to redesign the whole city. So in this environment, I could not be anymore a warehouse for cars. So our vision is to be an intelligent hub for mobility, charging, intermodality, sharing, being placed in our car parks. So a lot of services to the car and to the citizens related to mobility to be taken place in the car parks. So that's a tremendous change, and to be in a think tank like this, international with collective intelligence, brings a lot to us to really design our future. Thanks.
So thank you all for your amazing presentations. I would like to ask you just one question, so you will have 1 or 2 minutes to answer it. So Jonas, why is important for any company or any organization to think about future scenarios?
Yes, thanks, Eduardo, for the question. I guess we all acknowledge and recognize that there is some kind of uncertainty and turbulence going on, in our different environments. And we have been working with many organizations to increase resiliency, to develop more sound strategies. So the short answer is to increase odds of survival if I want to go to the extreme point. But more often than that, it's part of a learning process. It's a part of preparing organizations for things they cannot forecast, and that will come to them. So they better have that plasticity and that collective capacity to go and face those challenging times when they arrive. Of course, it also helps develop innovation. It also helps to develop better strategies, better business models. So it all the way down, it enables companies to be more successful and to thrive in more uncertain times.
Thank you. Can you pass the microphone to Ray? So Ray, Digital Europe. So why is important for digital company, any digital company in Europe, in the mobility ecosystem to think with a future view?
Look, I think it's important with all our digital companies to be innovating. They can't just do and sell what they're doing today and hope they're going to be generating revenues. I remember when we were first doing United Nations outreach on climate change in Copenhagen almost, 10, 15 years ago. And the idea back then was that regulations was going to kill business growth. And we went there and said, no, the more strict and the higher the targets, well, you need software and you'll need tech to be able to remove greenhouse gas emissions. So there is this opportunity, for growth. And I think one area, if I may just ask a question to the audience, who here would be very happy to get in a completely autonomous car today? Put up your hand. Wow, that's a lot of people. Well, I'm glad you're putting up your hands because you do it every day. At this very second, hundreds of thousands of people are being transported by robots. Who believes me? Yeah? They're called planes. Planes have been autonomous, being driven by robots for decades now. And, we get on a plane and we're very happy that it takes off, flies and lands almost by itself, right? Pilots do play a role, but a pilot cannot fly a plane. The robots fly the plane. So, this is where we're seeing actually change already happened for a while now, and we just need to make sure it catches up in different verticals.
Thank you, Ray. Elena, given the benefits of shoreside electricity, why are not all berthing points at ports already electrified?
Well, there are a number of reasons for that. We could think that as a new technology, or sometimes new technologies need some time to be considered. However, this is not the case for Shoreside electricity. It's a technology that is already proven, sorry, and we could find this kind of facilities in Los Angeles, Seattle, or in the northern parts of Europe, for example, in Hamburg or Antwerpen. So that, I mean, it's a proven technology, it's a mature technology, so that's not the problem. Also, sometimes when there are new technologies, it's a question of standardization or the lack of standardization. Neither is the case here because both IEC or IEEE, they have already standards in force. So neither this is the problem. In my opinion, I would say that what is happening, or the reason why we don't have for our harbors already with plugs at them for the vessels, it's a question of will or the lack of it, in fact. You know, for example, when we are talking about yachts, we are used to see yachts when they arrive and they call the marina. They switch off their engines and they are all connected to the low voltage network of the port. Or if we talk about motorhomes at camping sites, they are not with the engine on. They are also connected to the camping site electrical grid. Therefore, why not vessels? What is the problem? One reason that I think it could be also is a question, for example, of fuel taxation. You know, for a vessel, when it's connected to the port electricity, at least in Europe, that electricity is taxed. However, the fuel that they use at their engines has no taxes on it. So what I think that we will need is just to a question of coordination within all the stakeholders, port authorities, ship owners, cities, countries, European Union, so that they could set goals and they could put also in force measures that could be, for example, a reduction on the electricity taxes for the vessels that are plugging to the electricity grid in the port while they are at the port. Also, I mean, to be positive, I have to say that step by step this is gaining momentum. As, for example, the Port of Barcelona, just to keep with the example, being in Barcelona, has recently decided that they are going to invest 60 million euro, I think was the figure, so that they could wire up all their docks, starting with the docks near to the city, which are the docks where the cruises and the ferries are docking. And for that, they have already requested Red Eléctrica, which is the Spanish transmission operator, for a 220 kilovolts connection, so they could get the 80 megawatts that they will need.
Thank you, Elena. Rafael, when the infrastructures in Europe will be ready for autonomous or unconnected vehicles?
Wow. First, let me answer part of your question, Ray. You asked people if they had gone on an autonomous vehicle. Autonomous vehicle in general would be on not only cars. If you go to the airport this afternoon or this evening to the airport, not using a taxi, using a metro, just downstairs, the metro to the airport is a full autonomous system. So there is no driver in the metro. Well, of course, rails are easier to manage than buses or taxis. But this is an example that this is already here, the autonomous vehicle. Well, when our motorways, when our infrastructures will be able to cope with, well, it's a billion-dollar question. Well, we are working for that. We are working for that in not only in Europe, in America, and and China and other countries. We are working in giving intelligence enough intelligence to the roads in order to be able to communicate with cars and give them the information they need for a safe autonomous driving. In Europe, we are working in different projects funded by and not only ferrovial, of course. There are many companies related to infrastructures working in this world. Spain has a lot of companies on the top of the world on the world of infrastructures. But these companies, we are working, even competing to have our motorways ready in very few time, in very short time, for allowing level 4 and level 5 vehicles. I am not able to give you a date, but I am sure that less than 10 years there will be real results in motorways, in managed motorways. In the cities, well, that is more difficult. The cities are very complex. The first examples will be in controlled areas, but well, let's see what happens in a 15, 20 years time. It's very difficult to forecast, and I hope Norman Partners will help us to define these new scenarios. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafael. And Joan,
Hi.
how the smart parkings in the future will be with all this fast transformation of the mobility?
I would say that more than a smart, I will call it more than a smart or intelligent. I would say multimodal. That the real thing for car parks in the future is to be the place where things happen at the mobility in the mobility arena. So a lot of services being delivered at the car park, not just arriving with your car and parking the car, but changing of mode of transport, taking a shared car or a shared scooter or a shared bike, the point where cars will be recharged, if electrical, any kind of electrical. Why not other things like cleaning, repairing? So it's an infrastructure that in a changing world with less cars connected and electrified, we need to take cars out of the streets and put it somewhere, giving the city back to the citizens. So a lot of things should happen there. Obviously, this means a lot of interaction with all the service providers, a lot of data exchange between everyone in the car park, because a lot of services will be delivered there. So that's the smart part of it. All things related to data changes and data related to the delivery of services. So first is multimodal, but this brings the smartest.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you. So I would like to know if our audience, if you have some questions, please. We have 10 minutes, more or less. Please. Please, can you say your name?
Yeah. I need to. Okay. My name is Roger, and we've been talking a lot about autonomous vehicles, and yes, that's part of the future of mobility. But I was missing a little bit more about public transportation, because once I heard a sentence that says, "A smart city is not that one where everybody has a private vehicle; it's the one where everybody uses a public transport." What do you think about this?
Who wants to answer?
Difficult question. I tend to say that debate is not public versus private. Debate is sustainability. So we all know and understand more and more that mobility has externalities, pollution, congestion, etc. And we need to choose for each kind of mobility the one that has the less externalities. It's not easy because we as a society needs to define which externalities we want to reduce and with which ones we could live, because it will be always a dilemma. So I don't like the debate public versus private. For example, there are already in Europe cities that are thinking that in 5-year times all the public transport will be car sharing. They will stop the buses, they will stop everything, and the public transport in this city, it's an Austrian one, will be car sharing. So car sharing here could be a private company, in this city would be a public company, but all frontiers are blurring.
Well, of course, this question is not maybe technical, it's also ideological. Of course, the trend is that the cities try to improve the public transport, and I think it's a good idea because public transport looks more efficient and more sustainable. Of course, but well, to try to change these trends, cities need to improve the intermodality. So cities need not only to put taxes to private cars or increase the price of the parkings. They need to give more opportunities, more ways of transportation. Of course, most of we have our own car, but if you make some figures, in a lot of trips, the own car is tremendously more expensive than using other kind of transport. But anyway, as you say, it's not easy to completely eliminate the private cars, because there are, especially outside the cities, in the areas surrounding the cities or in more rural areas, it's a bit difficult to avoid the necessity of having the own car. But of course, new kinds of transport, new kinds of services, like you say, shared vehicles, new kinds of mobility, that will help this change of paradigm of transport.
No, nothing. From my side, nothing new to add to that. In the end, it's just, as Joan was saying, to choose the best transport method for every place, because it's not the same in every city, in the number of populations, the conditions of the city, and I agree with him that it's not a question of public versus private, but a question of efficiency and sustainability.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. There is another question, please.
Yeah, my name is Xavier. I have a question for Joan. You mentioned the concept of the smart hub, and you said that for that, what is key is the sharing data. But at the same time, in your multimodal architecture, there are different businesses, and the most valuable thing for those businesses is their own data. So, I mean, what is the strategy then to enforce sharing data so that your open hub or smart hub concept can work? And what would be actions that could be taken in that respect?
Data has different levels. Obviously, myself as an operator, I have data that allows me to design more efficient operations inside my own service. But obviously I will benefit to know, to gain insights from data at a higher level. And these insights needs to be shared by everyone, because everyone benefits from that. First one is the city, that can make the city, let's say, some kind of adaptable to the different conditions and to the different scenarios. So it's very important to define the different levels of data that it just belongs to me because I'm the only one that I will benefit from it, but at other levels, all of us could benefit. And obviously, we are not talking about personal data. We are talking about mobility data. And also, the externalities impact of each of the different services and how we can improve that. The whole ecosystem could benefit of that. The difficulty is to sit everyone in a table and define at which level do I keep my own data and at which level I put the data on the table. My guess is that as far as everyone is open to have this data that could benefit everyone to put on the table, we could reach an agreement. But it's not easy.
Just a minute.
One minute.
Just a minute. This forum has been organized by Ametic. Ametic is an organization for IT and communication. So, and I am ashamed that here we didn't speak about that. Of course, platforms and data handling and information is crucial for the new mobility. Otherwise, it will not exist. All these solutions will never exist without platforms, without information and communication. So, of course, Ametic should be here, and we are very happy that Ametic organized that, because information and technology is absolutely necessary for developing the new mobility in all the world.
Thank you very much. So thank you to our speakers. Thank you for accepting to design these future scenarios with Ametic and with Norman Partners and with the other think tank members, because together with Ametic as a neutral platform with public bodies, research centers, academia, associations, companies, and social agents, we can influence in the future of mobility in Europe. And again, I suggest you all to take advantage of our public brochure that you can download in our website that summarize all the work that we have done until today. So thank you very much. Thank you to the audience for your time, and have a good afternoon to everyone.